Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Dodge this.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a week since we have last talked to you. And if you don't know where you're at, you're confused, you hit a button and you found yourself on a rabbit trail of this podcast. We are the Holy Moment Podcast. We are a podcast where we watch movies with you and we discuss the moments that work, the moments that don't, and the moments that reflect truth in unexpected ways. But we're not doing that today because today we watch an absolute shit movie and we're going to be discussing how it was horrible and how I apologize for making everyone watch it. That being said, someone who is not shit, someone who is quite delightful actually, I'm here with my co-host, Jeffrey Nichols.
Oh, shucks. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm excited to get into this movie. Honestly, the category, it's rancid-ass tomato. This might be a bit of a hot take here. I thought it was just a little overripe.
Oh, no.
Just a little overripe. That means it's not a great film, but, like, it wasn't bottom of the barrel for me.
Jeff, oh, no.
It wasn't bottom of the barrel.
I'm going to have to quit. I'm going to have to find a new co-host.
No.
We can have different opinions, but you can't have, like, bad opinions.
No. This is not a bad opinion, right? This is, what I'm saying here is not that this is, Oppenheimer. This isn't Citizen Kane, but, I mean, it was serviceable. We can get into it. But you speak your host shenanigans.
Okay.
Mr. Host.
I'll just say this. We watched the movie The Deal, and thank you for saying that, Jeffrey. This was for the category Rancid Ass Tomato. So Jeffrey and H picked a movie for this category, and it had to have 5% or less on Rotten Tomatoes. This movie had 3. Jeffrey picked Super Baby Geniuses 2, which we watched, I think, 3 weeks ago, and that movie was way better than this movie. Purely because it's, like, ironically funny to watch Super Baby Geniuses 2 as a 26-year-old male. It's just sad. It's just sad to watch Deal alone as a 26-year-old male. But yeah, so this was my pick. I picked it just because I went to Letterboxd and I looked up like movies with 5% less or on Rotten Tomato, and there's like a whole list of them. And it was not a good time watching it. I guess I'll give you a little bit of the backstory of how this movie got made and all that fun stuff. Not that it matters, but yes.
It's The Deal,
also,
right?
Yeah, it's not The Deal. Because I did a lot of research, and anytime I put The Deal in, it tried to give me a different movie. It's just Deal. So this is actually episode 17, guys. We're coming up on episode 20 of the Holy Moment Podcast, which is really cool. What is it, like 4 months of doing this? 4 times 4 is 16. So no, 5 months. Wow.
Hold on. Okay. Interesting. I think I may have watched the wrong movie.
No way. That's awesome. Did you really?
I did. I mean, it still had a low rating on Rotten Tomatoes, but...
Wait, what was the movie you watched, Jeffrey?
It was The Deal.
What was it about?
Starring Christian Slater and...
No.
What's her name? Abby Salma or someone. I was thinking about your text about Burt Reynolds, and I was like, he's not in this movie.
Oh, that's awesome. You know what? We're going to power through. It's funny enough, I follow another movie podcast I listen to frequently, and they had something similar happen. But the thing is, they have 3 hosts, and 2 of them watch the correct movie, so they can still have a conversation. So we'll see how this goes. I'm going to critique my movie, and Jeffrey's going to critique his movie, and we'll see what happens. Well, now I'm really curious. Now, screw the audience at home. Now I'm just curious as a person, what was your movie about?
Okay, so my movie was about this investment banker who was trying to broker a deal, like a merger between 2 oil companies, an American one and a Russian one, right? Because this is during there was a gas crisis, and gas prices were super high, and this deal would have brought a lot of oil to the U.S. The only issue is the Russian-based oil company, like the land that they work with, doesn't have a lot of oil in it. And we find out that they're buying oil from several Arab countries that we're at war with. And so it's illegal for us to get gas from those countries. But this Russian company allows us to circumvent that because they buy the oil and then they sell it to the U.S. Or that's what they're trying to accomplish. The investment banker is uncovering this mystery, because this is all on the down low. It's not supposed to be, public information, obviously. And the more he digs, the more the Russian mob tries to get him to stop, right? By threatening family members, they kill close friends, they kill leads. And then finally, his girlfriend is taken hostage, and he has to decide, okay, am I going to go through this deal, knowing that, the reputation of my firm is on the line, knowing that it's illegal, that it's unethical, or do I say no to the deal and risk my girlfriend being killed?
Okay. The big takeaway I have discovered from this is that I'm very thankful that I don't have to get a new co-host. Because if you'd watched just Deal and you said, just slightly overripe, I would have died. I would have said, someone take away this man's film degree. Someone never let him act again because he does not deserve to talk about movies. That makes me a lot happier. And I also kind of know about the movie you're talking about because, as I said, Deal is such like a movie no one's ever heard of that it's really hard to like find online. So if you type in The Deal, the movie you came up. So I was trying to find my movie on Letterboxd and I typed in The Deal and then I clicked on it and I read the synopsis you just gave and I was like, that's not the movie I'm supposed to be watching. Well, that's hilarious. Well, you know what? We're gonna push through because thankfully, Deal, the actual movie we're supposed to be watching today, is such a garbage movie. You guys, the audience at home, you don't need a real review of it. It sucked. It was horrible. We'll go through with it. But if this was like, I don't know how you would have messed this up. But if it was like something like The Matrix or Django Unchained, Good Will Hunting, and if you watched the wrong movie, then I would have been like, whoa, put the brakes on. We're gonna have to do an emergency. Go watch this movie, and we'll come back to it. But I don't think this movie honestly deserves it. You want to know how I know that? Because this movie made $85,000 at the box office. That's it. 85 grand. I couldn't find the budget, but it had Burt Reynolds in it. You know for a fact it was more than 85 grand. So it 100% lost money. But this just
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
Sorry, no. I read your text about Burt Reynolds' house being blue, right? And I thought to myself, okay, well, that must be a reference to the movie. I watched the movie. There's no Burt Reynolds. And I'm thinking to myself, was he just telling me a joke? Like, was that just the setup to a punchline? And I just didn't.
It wasn't a setup. I was giving you factual information. I have been in Burt Reynolds' house, and it is in fact blue.
No. It was like, why did the chicken cross the road? That's what I thought you were doing to me.
Blue ball, are you not finishing the joke? We're so sorry, audience at home. In the future, we will cross-reference and make sure we're watching the same shitty movie. Well, let me give you a little backstory on the movie we're supposed to watch and that I watched. It is in fact called Deal. It was directed by Gil Cates Jr., also written by him, so shame on you. You know how like 2 episodes ago we were like, man, Tarantino wrote and directed Reservoir Dogs? So impressive. You should be embarrassed that you directed and wrote this. At least if you just directed it, you could have been like, someone gave me a garbage script. What am I supposed to do? But you wrote it too, Gil. You wrote it too. He didn't, I'm not going to talk about anything he also directed because it's nothing of note. This came out in 2008. That's important because by golly, does it feel like the most 2008 movie I've ever watched in my entire life? And it starred Burt Reynolds. That's really all you need to like. All you need to know about this movie is that Burt Reynolds was in it. And that is literally it. As far as awards go, it was actually nominated for Worst Supporting Actor for Burt Reynolds at the Razzies. For those of you who don't know, the Razzies is kind of a play on the Oscars, but they're done every year for like the worst movies. So Burt Reynolds got nominated actually twice for 2 different roles, but he lost out to Pierce Brosnan and Mamma Mia. But
What?
A little bit of What?
Hold on. Pierce Brosnan won a Razzie for his role in Mamma Mia.
Yeah, he won Worst Supporting Actor in Mamma Mia for 2008.
I don't believe this. What is this world coming to? Or I guess what did it come to? Back then in 2008. I love that movie. Mamma Mia is so charming.
I mean,
Have
I
you
haven't
seen
seen
Mamma
it in
Mia?
a long time.
No.
I watched it once as a little kid, and I thought there were like a lot of sexual undertones I didn't understand as a 12-year-old. And then I watched it again in college with some friends. And it was like, I'm not going to say it's the worst movie ever, but it's like not my cup of tea for sure.
That's
It's
fair.
better than The Deal.
I mean, here's what I'll say. He is the least interesting dad. So I'll give them that. Sorry, continue.
Oh, how about this? I'm going to talk about this movie, but if there are any tangents you want to talk about, as long as it's film related, you go on it, Jeffrey. Because there's not a whole lot of if this was a movie, if this movie was like a course, this would be fine dining at a French restaurant where you go in hungry and they come out and they're like, "Oh, mademoiselle, here's your main dish, yes," and it's like a sliver of an almond and then a little bit of parsley. Did you guys see that Jack and the Beanstalk, but it was Mickey Mouse? Do you know what I'm talking about, Jeffrey? I'm
I think
99%
vaguely.
sure. I'm pretty sure this is what I'm thinking of. I think there's a Jack and the Beanstalk rendition, but it was Mickey Mouse. And in a scene, because they're poor and hungry, I think it's before they plant the beans, Mickey Mouse is cutting a piece of bread and it's so thin, it's like see-through. That
Yeah.
is how much sustenance was in this movie deal. Um, so
I can't
all I'm
wait
trying
for
to
us to get to our holy moments.
yeah. I, your holy moment has to be based off the description of the movie for the next 45 minutes I give.
Okay, yeah.
And it can't be my holy moment either. But strap in, folks. If you thought Baby Geniuses 2 was a chaotic crap fest, well, get ready for this movie. So yeah, let's start with the first act, Jeffrey. You're so familiar with it. The setup. Tommy Vinson, a retired poker legend, Burt Reynolds' character, has sworn off the game after it nearly cost him his marriage. He discovers Alex, a talented but inexperienced online poker player. Recognizing Alex's potential, Tommy offers to mentor him, proposing a deal. Tommy will finance Alex's entry into high-stakes games. In exchange, they split the winnings. So, really funny, this movie opens up with an identical scene from Reservoir Dogs. It opens up with a bunch of guys sitting around a table, chatting, and the camera is like doing a 360 spin around them. And that is where the similarities begin and stop. But yeah, this movie is about poker. It is about this the classic, like, he's kind of a nerd, but he's also kind of attractive. So like you like him, but he's not like a jock, so you can still relate to him. And he's good at poker, and his parents don't believe in him, and he's really bad at getting laid, down on his luck, and so he's this poker guy. And the funny thing is, he's set up to be kind of a prodigy. He's set up to kind of be pretty good at poker. And the movie goes through like a whiplash montage, almost like he's good at poker. Oh, he's going to the Nationals. Oh, he lost the Nationals. And now he's depressed back at home working a shitty lawyer job, all within like 5 minutes. And Burt Reynolds is just like watching the TV, watching this kid and being like, this kid sucks. Interesting. But the point is, Alex's character is set up to try to be this kind of prodigy poker player. But he's bad at poker. The whole movie, he is losing over and over and over again at poker. And I guess the idea is like he's kind of hot-headed. So many times he gets kind of like made fun of or jabbed at. He like bets all his money and then he loses because he doesn't know how to like play the game. As Burt Reynolds said, you don't play your cards, you play the people.
I don't understand how he's set up as a prodigy. I feel like hothead is the one thing that you can't be when you're playing poker.
Yeah. He's just like, he just keeps losing. Like he keeps like, and then like, in poker. I mean, Jeffrey and I we don't really play poker all that much. So I assume you don't have a lot of knowledge about poker, but correct me if I'm wrong. But the whole thing about poker, how they're like, you have a tell. If you're bluffing, your eye twitches or, you cough a lot, like that idea.
Yeah.
Like Burt Reynolds' character basically had the superpower of just knowing your tell by looking at you and then knowing when you're bluffing. He basically just like had the superpower of like, you're lying. And that was his whole shtick. But the point is, so Alex, he won a little bit of money. He did okay at poker. And then he runs into Burt one day. Also, I'm not going to refer to Burt by his character's name. His name is Burt for this movie. Okay. Burt is like, hey, bro, you're not super bad at poker. What if I trained you? And Alex is like, what the heck's in it? Why would you do this? And he's like, hey, look, you don't have enough money to get into the poker game. So I'll pay the fees. And then you go in and then we'll split the winnings 50-50. And Alex is like, okay. And do you want to know the motivation behind why Burt is doing this?
Why?
I would like just a good guess.
Oh,
why do you think Burt
good solid guess. I think that, okay, so gambling was essentially ruining his marriage. He's like, oh, it's not gambling if I gamble through this kid. I mean, that sounds
That sounds like that's technically the correct answer. But the inciting incident, when you go to film school, you're like, what's the inciting incident? What pushes our characters to go on the journey? His wife and him were planning a cruise, and the wife was like, we can only afford um like the worst cabin. And he's like, that won't do. I need to go make us money by almost ruining my marriage again by going and playing poker. Obviously, it's like revealed later on that it's, he's trying to kind of relive his heydays and he wants to, because he almost won a title championship, but then he cracked under pressure and he didn't win it. So he's kind of trying to win it again, trying to prove himself that he can do it before he gets too old. But I just like the idea was the beginning inciting incident was like, damn, I'm poor and I want to go on a cruise. I just thought that was super funny.
Yeah, it makes me think of The Incredibles, honestly. Because, they're superheroing, and then superheroing is outlawed, and then he gets a bit washed up, but he misses the glory days, and so he does vigilanteism on the down low. What his inciting incident is that he's like unsatisfied with the work he's doing at the insurance company. That's what I'm getting from your description. Is that this is basically The Incredibles with gambling.
I mean, you're correct. And Burt Reynolds does, in fact, have a superpower. As I said, he can look at you and know when you're lying, Jeffrey. He can look at you and be like, oh, that's a piece of garbage right there. There was like a scene where Alex and Burt first meet, and Burt is, trying to flex and he's like, what do you think they're just like at a poker tournament. And he asks Alex, like, what hand do you think this guy has? And Alex is like, well, I don't know. And Bert's like, he has a bad hand. And Alex is like, no, you don't know that. And they play out the game, and then he shows that he has a bad hand. And Alex is like, oh, it was just a lucky guess. And he's like, point to anyone in this room. And he's like, okay, what about that guy? And he just looks at him, implying he's never seen this guy play before, never met this guy. And he just looks at him and he's like, yeah, he is a good hand. I can just tell by the way he's, looking at his cards. So very much just pull out of your butthole superpowers. I'm the best at poker. But the point of the story is, I don't really know what the point of the story was, but so yeah, Alex and Burt, they team up. They're like, okay, together we're unstoppable. So Burt is training Alex and he's teaching him like, hey, everyone has a tell. You got to read people so you can figure out when they're bluffing, and you also got to make sure you don't have a tell so you know when you're not bluffing. And Alex never learns. Like, he doesn't get better. He just keeps going and playing and gets angry and then bets all his chips and then he loses them. It was weird. There was no character growth. I kept expecting to be like, okay, now the tables are going to turn. He's going to be better. But he just kept losing at poker a lot and being really bad. But that's where kind of the second act picks up. I like how we're usually hitting the second act by like, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 minutes. And we've been talking for like 8.
Oh, wait, hold on. I've got a question for you. I think what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to ask questions about the movie based on your synopsis. I feel like with these mentee-mentor relationships in movies, if it's a central plot point, then you want their chemistry to be like off the charts, right? What's the chemistry like between Burt Reynolds and the other guy?
I'm happy you bring that up because it's exactly as you just said. It was Burt Reynolds and the other guy. Burt Reynolds, that was Burt Reynolds held his own as best as he could. This was one of those instances where you really could tell an actor was doing a pretty dang good job with a really, really bad script. What was really interesting was I liked Burt Reynolds' character because he played him so well, but his character was written so bad, I kept getting frustrated with his character. Like Burt Reynolds would take this kind of mediocre scene and act it so well, I really believed him. I was like, man, I really like, for example, pretty early in the movie when Alex and Burt are like going through a training session, like a montage of them training. And then we get Burt Reynolds' backstory where he's like, yep, I was a really good poker player back in the day, but I got addicted. I I was really good, but then I got dethroned and it really messed with my head. And I borrowed a bunch of money and I got in debt, almost ended my marriage. But my wife was like, hey, I'll give you one chance. If you walk away from poker and never play again, I will stay with you. And he's like, I miss poker every day, but I would have missed her a lot more. So I stayed. Is the gist of the scene. And it was a really, really good scene. I really believed Burt. I really cared what he was saying and just, there was a lot of heartfelt in it. And it wasn't like shot well, but it just was acted really well. And so I was really excited to get this dynamic between him and his wife because, now he's kind of going back on his promise. He might not be playing poker, but, he's pretty much doing the thing he said he wouldn't do. And so I was really interested to see this dynamic with the husband and wife. But then by the choices that the character made because of the writing, I got really frustrated. He kind of became a dick and was very selfish, even though in that scene, he really sold such a heartfelt, I would do anything for my wife. I love her. I left behind this addiction. She's like my world. And it was acted so well, but then his actions didn't reflect it. So it was a really weird scenario where you had a good actor making you believe in the character, but then the writing almost opposed it. It is fine in a film, and it's actually even good if you have a character have contrary. So often in real life, we want to make money, but we're lazy. We want to lose weight, but we don't want to go to the gym. There's so many contrary things in human life. So I'm not saying that a character cannot say one thing in a movie and then they have to then go do it. I love my wife. So the rest of the movie, I'm going to do things I love my wife. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is the scene was acted in such a way that set up the character to believe that he would do certain actions. And then he was written to not follow up on those actions, which made it really disconjointed.
Okay, but that's an interesting thing, and it feels like a testament to his acting that when you're watching the movie, instead of going, this character wouldn't make that decision, you're instead going, why is this character making that decision? Right?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, that is exactly how that's why I was frustrated. It was a really weird. It made me like Burt and dislike our director. It made me be like, man, I really like this Burt Reynolds character, but he's making all the wrong decisions. But like you could almost feel like it almost felt like an actor at gunpoint being like, I know you want to do this, you're gonna go do this. Like it was a really weird duality of like Burt just acted it so well that I believed in his character. And you could feel like Burt wanted to do this with the character, but the director made him do this. And it just like it was a slap in the face of the performance that we got. I guess since, screw our normal structure because this movie is a hot piece of garbage anyways, I'm going to jump to the end to give an example. Burt, he originally was just training Alex, but then I'll go into more detail later. Alex and Burt have a big falling out. And this was right before the big national championship where $8 million on the line, they're going to split it. So they have a big falling out. And at this point already, him and his wife's relationship is kind of strained because she finds out that he's training someone in poker and he's going to Las Vegas. And even though he's not betting money, that's not really the point of a gambler. So she kind of leaves them. She goes to stay with her sister. And so Burt has just hit the low point of the movie. He's kind of been left by Alex, his only other friend. And so he calls up his wife, but his wife doesn't answer. And so he goes, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go play poker. I'm going to go play in this tournament. And for the rest of the movie, he's kind of selfish. He makes the decisions that he wants to do. And you can tell he's a little torn up about his wife not being there. But I was just really frustrated that he didn't fight for him and his wife's relationship. He let it go so easily. Like in a scene, he showed back up home from after being from Las Vegas, and the wife found out that he was not on a business trip, but at Las Vegas gambling. And he doesn't fight to save her. He doesn't you know what? You're right. I'm out. I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. She's like, I'm going to go stay with my sister. And he doesn't fight it. He's just, literally she leaves and we cut to a scene where him and Alex at another poker tournament. And so it just felt like, again, you can set up the idea of he loves his wife, but he's an addict. So he gets drawn back in 100% you can do that. But it wasn't set up that way. It was set up that he genuinely loved his life and he hasn't played poker in 20 years. And so it just feels really weird to then go back and not respect his wife or her wishes at all.
Is that the note that it ends on? Do they ever reconcile or?
That's the frustrating thing. They reconcile, but Burt didn't do anything for the reconciliation. The weird thing about this movie was there were some weirdly okay moments that could have been good if they were set up well. This was just a movie built on poor writing and bad direction, but there were weird nuggets of interest that were actually hey, I see the core concept, but it was just slathered in mediocrity in every single area that those moments weirdly shined. Because you have such a garbage movie, the moments that were hey, that was interesting concept. That was a really well acted scene, or that was actually a really good piece of dialogue, really, really shown. But they only really, really shown because they were covered in pieces of garbage everywhere else.
This sounds like a first draft. This sounds like a draft that you would take to a friend and they give you all this advice and critique, and then you refine the bits that are good and cut the bits that don't work.
That is a great point. It does feel it absolutely feels like a first draft. Because first drafting with the script when you're writing, you kind of, every writer's different. So everyone has a different process. But for me, you're kind of just running with it. You get an idea, you write out a scene, you're yeah, good enough. And then you get another idea and you go this way and you go this way. It's like a maze and a labyrinth that's kind of just running its own course. And then you get done. You take your like 130-page script and you read through it and you get people to read through it and then you hack it to pieces. And then you take out those gold nuggets and then you figure out how to connect them with silver thread to make a beautiful script. But yeah, it did feel like there was a few interesting concepts that then was just muddled by everything else. But to answer your question, kind of entering to the third act, everyone's at their lowest point. Alex is mad at Bert. Bert's mad at Alex. They're in hotels in Las Vegas or Texas or wherever the frick they were about to play this big game. And his wife shows up and she basically is like, hey, I know that doing this meant more to you than it meant more to me that you don't do this, which I think first off is just a really interesting concept in a relationship, the idea of sacrifice. And if something means more to another person, then do you sacrifice and let them do it? It's a different question, like kind of a relationship question. But the point is, she shows up and she apologizes and she's like, hey, I'm here with you. I believe in you. I'm going to support you. So he doesn't know repercussions for his actions.
No, I mean, I feel like that it's a good point about sacrifice because for the past 3 years, I've been using and abusing heroin. And my girlfriend has been like, you got to quit that. You got to cut it out. Right. And so I've tried, but I mean, it's been difficult because it's so important to me. And so recently she came around and said, hey, Jeffrey, I've been doing some reflecting and I know how much you love heroin and I don't want to get in the way of that. Right. So you smoke that heroin and I'll pay for it.
Yeah.
And so like our relationship has been like this, tight, real tight since. And so I'm really feeling for Burt Reynolds in this moment.
All I have to say, Jeffrey, is if you're doing heroin that often, you look great. To the audience at home that can't see this, go look at the video podcast.
Thank
Jeffrey's
you.
An attractive man. No dark eyes, no dark circles under his eyes, no veins popping out, no shriveled bones.
I've had a lot of work done.
Yeah.
How
are you able to do so much heroin and look this good?
No, it's just, the right doctors, the right plastic surgeons, and I mean, they work miracles.
Wow.
So.
Inspirational. You hear that, folks? Beautiful.
See, have you seen the movie Grease?
No. Thank you for
okay.
making me feel horrible.
Nathanael, I swear that you have seen more movies than I have. I promise you that you watch movies more regularly than I do. It just so happens that the movies that I bring up in this podcast, you just haven't seen. And so I feel like I'm giving the audience an inadequate understanding of, our movie consumption.
I mean, I go through phases. I will go through phases where I'll watch like 3, 4, 5 movies a week, and I'll go through phases where I only watch movies for the podcast. So it's just hit or miss for me. But anyways, the movie Grease. What about it?
Oh man, so the whole shtick, right, is you've got this bad boy greaser kid, right, who treats the main, love interest with some level of disregard, but he really cares about her. He's just really falling to peer pressure, right? And then she is this very goody two-shoes girl that really doesn't have a rebellious bone in her body, right? And
oh wait, Grease, as in like the musical?
Grease Lightning, that.
Oh wow, Jeffrey, you and I are on the most opposite wavelengths. I thought you said Greece as in Greece, as in some Roman movie.
Oh no, no.
Wow, man. Maybe we should just, to audiences at home, we might not need to ever release this episode. I really thought you meant like the the movie Troy.
Yeah.
I thought it was like that type of movie, not Grease Lightning. Oh yes, yeah, I love Grease. I've 100% seen Grease.
Yeah, but you know how her character shift at the end comes completely out of nowhere and isn't set up at all?
Yep.
Right? And he doesn't have to do a thing. He's thinking about changing for the better. He's thinking about pursuing a college education. But then she completely, changes her personality for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he stays just as he is.
But don't we all want that as men? Don't we want a woman to put on skin tight leather, BDSM clothes and get in a car with us and drive up into the sky? Isn't that like the dream?
I want women to be who they are on the inside.
I thought
I
you were just
want
going to
them
full
to
stop.
I want them to
It's just, I want
express
women.
their genuine heart, and um yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. I wanted to be the white knight to your
You're trying
dark
to white
knight,
knight
but
me.
yeah.
Um, but yes, to go all the way back, well, we've been rabbit trailing for like 15, 20 minutes. Yeah, Burt Reynolds does an amazing job acting in these scenes. It sets up an interesting character, but they don't pull it off. They do a lot of decent, I don't even know if it's good, but they do a lot of like normal setups that they just don't do payoffs on. For example, like I told you, there was actually this really cool scene. So as Burt and Alex were kind of figuring out their relationship, figuring out how this whole poker thing was going to work, Alex asks, because Burt is like, hey, I'll pay your entry fees and we're going to split the money 50-50. And Alex was like, well, hey, should we get this in writing? Should we get like a lawyer involved? Should we like, write a contract up? And Bert says, and this is a cheesy kind of line, but Bert, he delivered it well. He did a good job with it. He's like, how about instead we just trust each other? And I was like, oh, that's going to come back in dividends, especially because, again, entering into the second act, we have that fallout. They go their separate ways. And then after they go their separate ways, the third act is all about the big final tournament. They're both playing in it. There's like 300 players. They're slowly climbing, getting closer to the top until they finally both make it to the final six. So it's 6 poker players. Alex and Bert are both there. And then finally at the very end, it's just Bert and Alex. And then ultimately Bert wins. But I swear at the end of it, they're going to reconcile by being like, don't you remember? I said, just trust me. I'm going to split the money with you. And they don't do that. It was so weird. It was such a great line, such a great setup of like, how about you just trust me? And he backstabs him. He backstabbed him. Like there's no resolution to that. And it was just like a lot of those really weird setups that just don't pay off whatsoever. And then another weird thing, so I gotta talk about the reason they have the fallout because it's actually awesome. And it genuinely was a twist that I did not see coming. I don't know if it was set up well, but it was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. So entering into the second act. So Alex and Bert have set up this relationship. They're traveling all over the world. They're playing poker games. They're making big bucks. It's going well. But you know what Alex doesn't have? He ain't got no big booty on his dick. I apologize for anyone at home, but that is, in fact, what he does not have. And it's very evident. Every single scene, Alex is like, is that a woman? Will she have sex with me? Is that a woman? Will she have sex? Will that woman have sex with me? Just in every scene, he's kind of pining after women. And so finally we get this scene where they just like won a bunch of money and they're chilling in a bar. And once again, Alex really creepily is just like looking at a woman at the bar, just staring at her. And Bert's like, when was the last time you got laid? And he's like, well, I don't know. And so Bert's like, you should go talk to her. So Alex goes and talks, and it's every nerd's fantasy. He goes up, he's a bumbling idiot, and she's like, ha ha ha, you're so cute. Ha 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 ha. And he keeps being a bumbling idiot, and she keeps being like, ha ha ha, you're so cute. And they go on a date, and then they end up having sex. And then for the rest of the second act, she's like his like girlfriend that meets up with them at casinos and they have sex. It's kind of weird. But so they're like a couple. But then probably at the end of the third act or the end of the second act, where shit hits the fan, Bert and Alex once again are at a bar. They just won another tournament, and Alex sees Rebecca, Misty, Rachel, I don't know, the woman, and he's like, "Hey, you came to see me," because again, she's like shows up at the tournaments and hangs out with them. So he's like, "What are you doing here?" And then it's revealed that she's in fact a prostitute because she's there being a prostitute. And then he turns to Bert and he's like, "Did you hire her?" And Bert was like, "Hey, I was just trying to help your self-esteem." And it was just like, I didn't see it coming. And so just like they have this complete falling out. They kind of reconcile by the end of the movie, but understandably, Alex is like, screw you, Bert. You made me feel like a complete idiot. You made me feel like I love this woman. And then he leaves. No follow-up with that woman whatsoever. Especially because the scene before that was Alex and the prostitute, at the time we didn't know it was a prostitute, they like just had sex, they're hanging out in their bed and they're being all cute, talking back and forth. And the girl is obviously very mysterious. She's like, I just wish we hadn't met under these conditions. And Alex is like, what conditions? She's like, no, you don't need to know. So they're having this conversation in bed, and she was like, acting all like, I wish we had met under different circumstances. So she clearly was leaning towards like, it started as a gig. I was a prostitute. I got paid to have sex with you. But it was clear she had feelings for him. And then even in the scene at the bar where he's mad at her, she's like, no, I really do care. But he kind of cuts her off and leaves. And I thought for sure she was going to come back in at the end of the movie and kind of explain things, and they were going to smooth it over, and they're going to live happily ever after. But she is just not mentioned or talked about or seen after that scene in the middle of the movie.
No, that sounds so strange. Because like, yeah, you're describing all of these events that have a lot of potential, and to hear that they're just not followed through on, I went ahead and did the math because I was curious. What with this feeling like a first draft, I was thinking how old or how young was this writer director when this came out? And I was thinking, oh, maybe he was in his mid-20s. Maybe this was his moment to direct his first feature-length film, and it didn't work out, but maybe he learned from this. He was 39 years old when this came out.
Oh, what I mean, yeah, he's done a handful of other things, so I'm curious, like how he's gotten involved in film. But yeah, I want to know. What I want to know is why the frick is Burt Reynolds attached to this movie? That like, if Burt Reynolds was played by any other mediocre actor, everything makes sense. Everything is like, oh yeah, like it's some garbage movie, some garbage director, garbage actors, garbage all around. Who cares? But the fact that Burt Reynolds was in it and was a great actor makes no sense. So I don't know. I don't know if it's one of those things, and I'm sure this happens. I don't know a lot about acting and all this. So Jeffrey, if you know more being an actor, let me know. But with like your agents, I wonder if sometimes if your agents are like, they take kind of a risk. They're like, hey, this is kind of a no-name actor, but it's an interesting script and there's some backing behind it. This could be the next big thing. Also, Burt Reynolds was older. I don't know a lot about Burt Reynolds' kind of film repertoire and his history, but he's Burt Reynolds. I'm sure he could have been doing what he wanted. So I wonder if he was getting up older in age and maybe there was less and less opportunity. And so the agent was kind of like, hey, this is the only offer you have right now, and maybe it could be good. But sometimes you take like almost every great actor has been in something bad. So maybe this is all that it was.
Like John Voight in Super Babies, right?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Yep.
Oscar winner. It makes me think either they're getting up there in age and so their opportunities are decreasing, right? And sometimes a paycheck is a paycheck, or maybe they were doing someone a favor, right? Maybe they had a friend on set or involved with the film somehow and said, hey, I know you really want this. Let me do this thing for you. But
yeah. Yeah, it is always so interesting how these big names get attached to these smaller projects. But yeah, he was really the shining light in this horrible dumpster fire. All that to be said, we kind of have a short lease today. Jeffrey has something personal going on that he has to get off before too much longer. So I'm just going to spitfire a list of horrible things that happen in this movie. Jeffrey, feel free to ask me any questions at the end of it. I'll give you my holy moment. We can call it a day, everyone. They can't all be bangers. So with that being said, the music was horrible. It was like someone went and found the worst free library music ever and used every genre of music ever. And there was music playing at every single gosh darn moment. One moment it was jazz, the next moment was like early 2000s, and then it was rock, and then it was classical. There was no continuity. It was just like, the 3-minute, 40-second track we had ended. What do we do? Well, Rob, just find another track. Okay, next track. 3 minutes, 30 seconds later, the track ended. Get another track. Keep going. If there's a second of silence, the movie will be ruined. So that was pretty horrible. The reason I sent Jeffrey the text, why is Burt Reynolds' house so blue, is because the cinematography was horrible. Anytime we were at Burt Reynolds' house, I guess the idea was like, he's so sad. He's a gambler. His wife left him. But it was like, I don't know, guys. Do you go outside at night and it's like blue? Like, when you're a kid and you color the sky blue, even though that's not always what it looks like, that's how blue this guy's house was. Just like the most, like bump the saturation up to 100 blue. It was weird. Cinematography overall was horrible. Really janky cuts, cutting to like people that just weren't necessary. A lot of spinning motion. I got sick. They were just always rotating. If it was like, it's like, what cinema is? Circles. Calling back to Baby Geniuses 2. It's the best sphere, round, smooth. What else did I hate about this movie? The poker scenes were so boring. They never really explained anything. They just would kind of cut to close-ups of someone looking at a card, cut to someone's face, cut to someone going, ah, dang it, throwing all their chips in. And also, anytime they wanted to build up tension, they did the same thing like 17 times. And it was like, yeah, I'm going to go all in, push all their chips in. Alex being like, if he went all in, I need to go all in. Pushes all his chips in, loses every single time. Just, he wasn't good at playing poker. Okay. Then I also want to talk about the very last thing, which again, felt like a slap in the face to Burt Reynolds' good performance. So, end of the movie. They're paying for all the big kahunas, $8 million. Got Alex on one side, Burt on the other. And they're playing a bluffing game where basically Burt, like they're both holding on. Oh, they do this like dumb thing where Burt looks at his cards and he has 2 jacks. And then the announcer, because you have announcers during poker, was like, we couldn't see what Alex had. We just missed it because we weren't looking. So who knows what he's holding? So it's just super obvious what they were doing. But so Burt's like, yeah, I got 2 jacks. What do you got? And they bluff it out. And then eventually Alex folds and he loses the game and Burt Reynolds wins all the money. And so at the very, very end of the movie, Burt is walking out with his wife and Alex is walking out with his family. And then the two meet up and they're kind of reconciling and they're kind of apologizing and being like, hey, I'm happy you won the money. Perfect chance for them to be like, hey, here's half the money, but whatever. But Burt, like as they were about to leave, Burt was like, hey, I need to know. You had 2 10s, right? You had 2 10s because Burt's whole thing was like, I can tell what people have just by looking at them. And again, the reason it was such a slap to the face was Burt felt like a pathetic, needy, whiny child that always needs to know he always needed to know what was going on. He always needed to be right. He's like, not only did I win 8 million, I needed to know that I knew what you had and I needed to know that like you lost. And so he's like, you had 2 10s, right? And Alex was like, yeah, I had 2 10s. And Burt's like, nice. And then goes away with his wife. And it just felt like such a slap in the face to like this kind of mature character we wrote who was respectable to being this gambling guy that's like, I just need to know I'm the best. But at the very end of the movie, after that scene unfolds, we cut back to the scene where Alex throws in, and it shows that Alex actually threw in 2 aces. So he intentionally gave away the money, which also doesn't make any sense because up until now, Alex is pissed off at Burt Reynolds' character, and they have no growth of why he shouldn't be pissed off.
Again, that feels like a moment that could have been cool if the characters' relationships had been different and had been set up differently.
Yep, it could have been done decently. And also, last thing, I swear, it was the most throwaway scene ever. In that final big battle of poker they're playing, they're like at a halftime, like they're taking a break. And for like 12 seconds, we see Alex's character being all chummy with one of the referee girls, like one of the like PAs basically. She has a clipboard and he's like risen her up. And we see that for like 12 seconds. And then at the very end of the movie, when Burt and Alex are having their final conversation, Burt was thanking him and, saying, thanks for not being mad at me. And Alex like, well, I can't be that mad at you. You really helped me out. And he's like, how'd I help you out? He's like, you saw me in there with that girl. You taught me those moves. And it was just like, what? No, he didn't teach you anything. He hired a prostitute to sleep with you and lied to you. And who is this random ass girl? What happened to the other girl? This girl was there for 12 seconds. It was so weird. It was so weird. With that being said, we have like 5 minutes. Jeffrey, do you have any thoughts? Any comments?
Yeah, I just thought that that moment when the thing happened with that character, oh my gosh, blew me away.
My word.
Especially when he did the thing.
Yeah. And when the other character did the other thing?
Yeah. And then he played that move. Oh my goodness. That move
was big. It was a big, big move with a capital B.
Yeah. And then that shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the with composition of it. Yeah.
There was
and then
light.
The music that accompanied it, it was such a moment.
Was that moment your holy moment?
I'd say so. I can't think of any moment holier.
Well, very good. With that being said, I will actually talk about my real holy moment. And my real holy moment is one of those small diamonds that shines in the rough because 99.9% of this movie was garbage. Basically, Alex and Burt get into an argument. This was kind of near the where the end of their friendship happens. And Bert is kind of berating Alex for keep losing and being an angry, kind of like prideful player. And then Alex retorts with, well, what about you? You know, you don't keep your promises either. What do you think you're keeping your promise by lying to your wife? And just kind of like jabbing back at him, saying like, hey, you promised your wife you would never play again. And you think you're really keeping your promise by lying to her by being here? And it actually, I thought it was well performed and it was just really well delivered. And I also thought it was like a nice commentary of like, hey, maybe just because you're not technically breaking your promise, like you don't lie to yourself. Look at the situation you're in. You're clearly treading the line and basically breaking the promise. And I just thought it was a really nice moment. And Bert's character had to go reflect on it. Did it cause any character growth? No, but it was a nice moment.
I agree.
So, with that being said, folks, that is our review of the movie Deal. I know you were waiting on the edge of your seats for us to review this movie. Don't worry. We're not going to do the normal wheel. For the next 6 weeks, we're going to watch all of Jill Cates Jr.'s movies that he has written, directed. That's all we're doing for the next 6 weeks. Tune in. It will be wonderful.
Delightful. Let's see here. I'm going to try to find the wheel.
Oh, yeah. I guess we should actually probably spin it. I think we're down to both 2 movies left. Jeffrey has The Mummy and Don't Tell Me. I've seen it. No, Excalibur.
Yeah,
no,
Excalibur.
I've not seen it. I've seen The Mummy. I've not seen Excalibur.
Wait. Are you sure I have 3 movies left.
Oh, you have 3? Oh, I have 2. Because I started, so I'm ahead of you. What do you have? Oh, you have Die Hard. Yeah. I knew I hadn't seen 2 of your movies. Okay.
I'm really excited about all these options.
Have you seen any of them?
No. I mean, I've seen The Mummy a long time ago. But
I've rewatched The Mummy recently. It's a good movie. And Die Hard I watched recently for the first time, and it's a great movie.
All right, folks, let's drum roll this sucker. Wonderful. Okay, so our next movie is Excalibur. This is one that I'm really excited for. I've seen a lot of cuts of it on Twitter. Just different shots that have grabbed my attention. It looks very surreal.
Bigger hole, Jeffrey. You're on Twitter? Oh, my.
Oh, yeah. Sorry,
I really
X.
do need to befriend you. Sorry.
No, this is for Cult Classic.
Oh, okay.
I think this one has gained some steam within the last year due to people posting, shots and clips and montages from it. So we'll see if it's worth all the hype.
Heck
In the meantime, hey, let's check our Gmail. Did we get any mail from our adoring fans? Ooh, I see an email entitled, in the subject line it says Spotify for Creators. Your episode was successfully processed. Thank you, Spotify for Creators. It's very kind of you to do that for us.
Below that, I see an email that says Spotify for Creators. Your episode is processing.
Ooh,
so
they're really keeping us.
We're getting a lot of fan mail.
Yeah.
But with that being said, you guys should email us. What's the name of that one guy that you ran into at the film festival?
Scout.
Send
us an email.
Let's
right
chant
now.
his name. Scout. Okay. Yeah, Scout, send us an email. Otherwise, Jeffrey, I think, probably knows vaguely where you live. He at least knows you're in Cleveland, and he will nuke Cleveland. But yeah, send us an email, guys. Leave us a 5-star review. Well, you know what? Don't leave us a 5-star review after watching this episode. Go watch any of our other episodes and then leave us a 5-star review. Because I probably wouldn't leave us a 5-star review after listening to this episode. And I understand. So go listen to like the previous week, The Tragedy of Macbeth, or Reservoir Dogs, or After Sun, or the Graveyards of the Fireflies. Great episodes. Listen to that. Give us a 5-star review. You can find fun little TikTok, little reely things for the dopamine on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and something else. It's not Pinterest, that's for sure. But yeah, go watch those. Go laugh. Go have a good time. Until then, next week we're watching Excalibur. Where can we watch it, Jeffrey?
Internet Archive.
Beautiful. I love to hear that. Yeah, go watch Excalibur and then come back and listen to us give a genuine good review. And Jeffrey, before I give the outro, when was this movie made? Let's make sure we're watching the correct Excalibur. Let's make sure we're watching the right movie so we're on the same page.
Yes, all right. This movie came out in the 80s, I believe. Excalibur movie. Let's see what specific year, just in case there are two Excaliburs, one in 82 and one in 83. Okay, 81. This came out in 81.
All right, I'm going to watch Excalibur. That came out in 81. Well, you heard it here, folks. Go watch that movie. Forget this episode ever happened, just how Jeffrey forgot to watch the correct movie. We love all of you. We hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Enjoy your Easter and enjoy yourself a grilled cheese. I had one for the first time in like 6 years yesterday, and it was delightful. Goodbye.